I'll try to be fair and balanced. He's the enemy. He is a token leftist number one on the server. If you've been on VC, excuse the cough, I have bronchitis at the moment, but he's been on VC. He's very notorious. I don't even know how to describe his viewpoints, but let's just call him the epitome of token leftist. Now, Goldie, on the other hand, here is the antithesis of everything Econoboy is. At one point, we did a stage called Econoboy versus the World, kind of a little impromptu thing that was quite successful, and a lot of you requested we do this again. But we figured, hey, the most popular part of that segment was Goldie and Econoboy debating. So why don't we just have them debate? And that's exactly what's about to happen here. So, Seeker, if you want to go over the topics they agreed to, and maybe a brief overview of the rules of the debate.
Okay, good night. Welcome, everybody. The two topics we're going to do tonight is immigration, and then the second topic is taxation. The rules that we have set up, the formats, is we're going to do a 5-minute opener. Each is going to do an opener. We'll do a coin toss or some RNG to figure out who goes first. So we'll do a 5-minute opener, and then each person will have time to present their arguments for 5 minutes. We'll then have a rebuttal from 1 to 5 minutes each. There'll then be a counter rebuttal for about 5 minutes. We'll then change the topic. We're hoping to do about 30 minutes per topic. So 30 minutes for immigration, 30 minutes for taxes. We'll do the same format for the second topic. And at the end, we'll hope to do 30 minutes of Q&A with the audience.
I have the coin toss ready, Seeker.
Okay, we'll just hang on to that for the second.
Yep.
If you go over, we'll let you kind of finish off your sentences. You know, we're not going to cut you off at a hard 5 minutes. So there'll be about 30 seconds of kind of grace room.
I'll give a 30-second warning.
Yeah, so there'll be a 30-second like a 30-second warning before your time is up. We'll let you know when your time is up. You can finish up your statement. But if you're going on and on and on, then we'll have to mute you and pass it off to the other speaker. Okay? Is anyone unclear?
Okay. That sounds fine to me.
It's good to me.
Okay, cool. So our first topic is immigration. Goldie seems to be generally against immigration, and Econoboy seems to be for it. So we'll go ahead. Let's hear their opening statements. We'll do the coin toss. Before we toss it, you guys want to call?
I'll go tails.
Okay, toss it.
It is heads.
So I get
time.
to
Here we go.
I get to pick if I go first or second, or do I automatically go first?
You're going first. We're going first. I'm calling that one.
Well, wait, but if I won the coin toss,
Oh my
Jim,
God.
I should get to pick.
Well, to be fair,
Okay,
Econoboy, I
fine.
picked tails because I had a feeling it was going to land on heads. I'd prefer to go second. So.
Well, but if you prefer to go second, that means I want to go second.
Pick Econoboy. Pick.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll go first. He wants to go second. I'll go first.
All right.
Oh, wait, we're going immigration first?
Immigration is topic 1. Taxes is topic 2.
Okay. Well, we're just starting as soon as I start?
Yep.
Basically,
Start out the mic, son.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I'll start. So yeah, my views on immigration, I feel like we've talked about this on and off in the server throughout the last couple years. I don't think I've changed my views on immigration that much, maybe just refined them a little bit more. More or less, I think that if we're talking from a U.S. context, I think that the American immigration system is fairly convoluted. I feel like it can be simplified a lot and liberalized to a great extent. And by liberalized, I do mean making it easier to, come to America and work or study or become a naturalized American citizen. I feel like that process does take far too long. I mean, there's just too many stories of people who are well-educated, productive members of society in one way or another, who, because of the way that we do our visa system or because of just the incredible length at which it takes to become a citizen, that they have to end up going somewhere else. I saw a tweet the other day from a guy. He had a PhD in engineering, and he said that the U.S. denied his visa application when he finished his education. So now we got this guy who he came to this country, studied, we trained him to become a doctor of engineering, and now he can't stay here. He can't actually use that education that he got here to provide for the American economy. That's a rough circumstance for that person. It's also a rough circumstance for the American people who missed out on a very well and technically trained person. But that story is not unique. I mean, if you've talked to anyone who's dealt with the immigration system in America, it can be overly convoluted, unfair. The lottery system is pretty crazy for a number of reasons. And so I think that's pretty bad. In terms of, I guess holistically why we should support that scheme, immigration is good for the economy. That's the most selfish reason to support a more liberal immigration scheme, is that it just helps everyone else, right? We get people that we need to work in certain jobs. Structural unemployment exists oftentimes when there are skills gaps. We're seeing that right now with labor shortages in various industries. Immigration would solve that if it was just easier to come here and get a job and allow those people who want to come here and contribute to society and American society to actually come here and contribute to American society. So I think that that's all pretty good. Of course, there are more moral reasons why you should be in favor of some immigration, right? I mean, obviously, when we're talking about refugees coming here, I think there's a strong moral case for allowing people fleeing autocratic regimes to come here, who are fleeing violent situations, to come here and prosper here. After all, if we care about counteracting China and the Russian government and the Iranian government, things like that, if people want to come here from those societies and be productive and contribute to our society and our way of life instead of their societies and those authoritarian governments, again, for purely selfish reasons and also for good moral reasons, we should allow those people to come here in general. I suppose I'll also address some of the standard counter arguments for immigration. It lowers wages, it lowers employment, I guess, for the domestic population. It appears that based on all the studies I've been able to look at in this regard, is that depending on the context of the immigration spike, it can lower wages to an incredibly marginal degree, oftentimes for people who lack high school educations. Now, why is that? It's because those are the people who are most directly competing with immigrant labor. Oftentimes when immigrants come in, it allows for management positions to open up for domestic populations, and that actually raises most people's wages. And so there's ways for us to take advantage of the gains of immigration and mitigate any potential economic harms. Of course, the economic net benefit is vast and certainly fairly evenly distributed amongst people. Immigration also helps us innovate. 76% of patents from the top 10 producing universities had one or more foreign-born authors in the United States. Gotcha. Immigrants produce proportionally way more patents than native people. Oftentimes that's because they help fill our grad schools with researchers and things like that. And overall, I think that immigrants lead to a fairly well-balanced and diverse society. I think America, of course, naturally is the story of immigration. We're all descended from immigrants. And I think America uniquely shows how you can integrate an incredibly broad swath of immigrants into society with some civic goals in mind and create a more sort of holistically beneficial society for the rest of us.
And that's time.
Goldie, you got the mic.
Okay, well, first I just want to say it's good to be with you all. There's a lot of stone cold patriots in the chat, which is always good to see. My position that I'm going to be taking today is I am anti-immigration. That stands with immigration and illegal immigration. My stance would be that the only purpose of immigration, the only people that truly benefit from immigration are employers. He sort of did the little Eminem rap god spiel, you can't diss me if I diss myself, when he said that wage gaps are an issue. Well, it's a tremendous issue because you're taking away pay from ungraduated workers or without a high school degree. And as a result of that, illegal immigrants and legal immigrants who will take any job that they're given at an incredibly low wage will take it, and then therefore the American has to suffer. I'm pro-American before I'm pro-immigrant. I'm pro money in a United States citizen's pocket before someone else. And another comment that he made, which I completely disagree with, which proves my point, is he talks about individuals coming into universities. Again, the only purpose of that is so they can hire an expert in a field that's not American, so they can pay them less. I think that the only purpose of immigration is to benefit employers. And sure, it's somewhat good for the economy on a standpoint that production is cheaper, but it's not good for the American worker. It's not good for what it takes to put some money in a person who didn't have the opportunity to graduate high school. And then the common misconception, right, that we hear a lot is illegal immigrants and immigrants will work the jobs that nobody else will. Why don't you tell that to the sewer workers who are on tremendous pay with great benefits? Why don't you tell that to the garbage truck workers? That right there alone is a common argument that I'm sure I expect him to use eventually, but it simply doesn't apply. The main purpose of my argument is that I care about the American worker. The immigrants are taking money out of the pockets of the American worker. Nobody's benefiting other than cheap labor costs and employers, not the American worker, and that's where I stand.
Are you conceding the rest of your time? Because you have time.
Yes, I try to keep it quick. I don't want to sound like a robot. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's 3 minutes
Real
and
quick,
23.
timekeeper. Yep. Keep track.
3
Connell
minutes
boy.
and 23.
Rebuttal.
All right, yeah. I mean, I guess to talk about that a little bit, I guess go a little bit in depth on it. So, Goldie mentions that the only people who benefit from immigration are employers. Obviously, that's part of the group that benefits from more immigration. It's the same story with trade. I think trade and immigration represent a fairly good analogy here, and I'll probably use that throughout this rebuttal. When it comes to the long-term economic growth of an economy, you need three things to grow in the long term. You need capital, you need machines, you need hammers, you need ladders, production lines, things like that. You need technology, right? You don't want to fall behind in terms of your productive capabilities, automating things, and Microsoft, Excel, things like this, these technological advancements, computers and stuff. But you also need labor, right? You need people to come in and work with that capital and also innovate and make workers more productive in terms of technology. So the only people who benefit from immigration are not just employers. We all benefit. I mentioned that there's innovation benefits that immigrants bring to this economy. That makes all of us more productive and all of us wealthier. Certainly when immigrants come in and fill skills gaps that we have, if we're missing doctors and we're missing engineers and we're missing electricians and plumbers and all of these things, of course, I'd love for Americans to take those jobs, but they're not. They don't want those jobs. At the very least, they're not getting the education required to do it, whether it be plumbing or electrical work or engineering or being a doctor. Of course, those things should be free at the point of service. If you ask me, I'm a good Democrat in that regard, but immigrants can help fill these skills gaps as well, which allows those services to be cheaper for consumers. Of course, it's better to pay a qualified doctor from another country than to have no doctor at all. That's the same thing with engineers or electricians or plumbers or construction workers, whatever it is. At the end of the day, Americans do want a lot of jobs, and there's many people who are unemployed that are seeking employment and trying to figure that out. But again, immigrants don't tend to take our jobs and depress our wages to any great extent. Goldie didn't really source any evidence in that regard, and I think that that's problematic for his argument. When it comes to, the people who are hurt by immigration, he mentions, as well as I did actually in my original speech, that oftentimes it's people with less than a high school education, essentially people who never went to high school or who dropped out of high school, that are marginally impacted by immigration. I think it's like for every 1% of immigration, they get like a 0.02% decrease in their wages. If you make $10,000, I think that's a couple bucks a year that might affect your wages in general. And that's not great. That's not good. But similar to trade, I don't think that most people would say that, well, just because trade and immigration make our entire society wealthier, that means we should get rid of all trade or we should get rid of most trade because some people lose out. Look at the Rust Belt. Look at these old coal towns as a result of the energy transition. This is why we don't need the energy transition, or this is why we don't need trade. No. Trade makes our country wealthier. So the question isn't how do we stop trade, it's how do we take advantages of the gains of trade and distribute them disproportionately to the people who might lose out in the form of free relocation, free retraining, or maybe just straight up cash benefits that have proven to be very, very effective at alleviating poverty. To me, that's the answer to immigration as well, is that to the few who lose out in response to the 95% of us who actually gain greatly from this immigration scheme, we ought engage in redistributive practices, and maybe we'll get into this more in the tax conversation, to compensate those people at the end of the day so that we're making them whole or actually making them better off in the first place. The last thing that he said, I'm pro-American, I'm not pro-immigrant. Well, if that mindset existed from the foundation of this country, we wouldn't have America the way it was. We would be a slowly dying off Anglo America with 1/100th the population that we would have today. We wouldn't be a global superpower without these different waves of immigration that characterized American history throughout time. The German immigration, the Italian, the Irish immigration, the East Asian immigration, the Hispanic immigration, and now the South Asian immigration that we're seeing today. Again, the pro-American mindset, as I've laid out from the benefits of immigration, is the pro-immigrant mindset. And at the end of the day, that's actually been the story of America from the founding to this very day.
Okay, well, my rebuttal to that is, first, I just want to address some dishonesties in your argument. You gave a statistic, something along the lines of the percentage of the reduced wages for workers without a high school education. It's actually an estimated 5%. It's not, I think you said 0.3%. Moving forward, I think you're forgetting one of the bigger issues. You're talking about that 95% of people are unharmed. Well, one of the bigger issues is with these green card workers is they have the right to bring all of their family members over to the United States. You take one worker who brings over 10 random old-ass people that have nothing beneficial to society, and they sit there and they do nothing. They take off the welfare programs, they get on welfare, food stamps, etc., which actually costs the economy. So, and then you brought up the solution is actually education, right? I think that's a common liberal redcoat argument that gets put upon me in this particular argument. I don't think that the solution is more education. I think that the solution is actually, I have it written down here because I really wanted to get into it. It's to completely cut off illegal workers alone from American jobs. We need to fund a new system in which employers can determine whether or not new hires have the right to work, which would be extremely beneficial for the economy. And the only type of infrastructure that we could actually use to enforce this system would be the 300 INS inspectors, whose main job is to stop employers from hiring immigrants. Regardless if they're illegal or not, the cheap labor still hurts American workers. Then you use the example, well, we need doctors, engineers. No, what they're doing is they're hiring cheaper doctors and cheaper engineers because they don't want to pay American workers to do the same job. Your whole spiel is proving my point that the only people that benefit from this is employers. American citizens aren't benefiting from green card holders who are working, I don't know, let's say an immigrant or an illegal immigrant gets a job over at a garbage truck, right? Steals the job from the American worker. What about the 30 people that he brought over from Mexico that are all going to be on welfare and whatnot? I think that if that's the case, then that particular individual that brought all those people over with his green card should have to pay restitution to the United States government for costing the American taxpayer money because we have to pay for these immigrants and we shouldn't have to pay for them. Again, you still haven't proven my point in regards to that the only people that benefit from immigration are employers. The economy doesn't.
Is that
Or was that the last rebuttal, or?
That's my rebuttal to you.
okay? So that at the stage we're at now, Econoboy has a counter rebuttal, and then Goldie will have the final counter rebuttal.
So can I just get 10 seconds really quick? Just 10 seconds. I just wanted to say that, I hear this, we're a country of immigrants in the past. Well, I'll leave you with this thought. Getting lost in the past distracts us on getting to work on the present. Stop living in the past and focus on what matters and focus on protecting Americans in 2022.
Okay.
Okay.
Econoboy has 1 minute of extra time in addition to his 5 minutes.
Oh, why do I get an extra minute? What did I do to earn?
Because Goldie only used up 2 minutes.
Oh,
Yep,
I see.
You concede the time. However, don't feel obligated to talk for all of it. If you want to concede time, that's fine. We'll add it to the QA section.
Yeah, I have
Okay,
it
sure.
all figured out. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, to start out, he mentions this offhanded thing. He's probably citing someone else who's saying that high school workers don't actually lose 0.2% of the wages; they lose 5% of the wages. But he doesn't respond actually to the fundamental point, which is that immigration again makes our society wealthier. I'll get more into that in the future, if they lose 5% of their wages, if it's only workers with less than a high school diploma, again, I think that what's more important question isn't how do we stop the 95% from benefiting from immigration so that we can save 5% of wages for people with less than a high school diploma. Rather, it's how do we empower people with a high school diploma in a world that's wealthier. That's the more important question, not how do we eschew the benefits to the 95%. And again, if you believe in empowering lower income workers, you're going to believe in the type of policies that I believe in, right? Again, cash transfers and free retrainings and free relocation and robust public transit and healthcare services offered to workers. Many other countries have done this. America hasn't. And that's a problem if you ask me. If you care about people with less than a high school diploma, you don't care about limiting immigration. You care about, again, how to empower them in a world where trade and immigration is making us all wealthier. He says this thing about immigrant workers getting on welfare and food stamps. This actually isn't true. I mean, we can go to examples in the Obama administration where statutorily immigrants aren't eligible for welfare for the first several years upon their arrival. And actually, Obama got criticized when he was president for prosecuting states that transferred welfare benefits to legal immigrants, either by mistake or in opposition to federal policy. So it doesn't appear clear to me that immigrants actually are huge welfare drains onto the system. There have been many analyses done on this regard. In a huge survey of fiscal drain done by Alex Narasta, sort of immigration expert, he found that it's kind of a hard question to answer whether immigrants are net fiscal drains, because it depends on contextually the country that's accepting the immigrants themselves, and what the immigrants end up doing. However, one thing that is very robustly found is that if you want immigrants to assimilate well, you want them to pay taxes, the easiest thing that you can do is make it easy for immigrants to get a job. I mean, right now, if you're on like an education visa in America, you're only allowed to work oftentimes the terrible job associated with your education. Oftentimes, you're not even allowed to work in general. The sponsorship system is very, very expensive, and it's very, very hard for employers to sponsor immigrants, and conversely, it's hard for immigrants to get sponsored employment. So if we just allowed immigrants to come here and work, that would actually solve a lot of the problems that Goldie is talking about, especially when it comes to the conspiracy about how people hire immigrants under the table to pay them less. Well, if we made it easier for them to hire them legally, they would. Again, this is what happens in many other countries. He also mentions again, he harps on this idea that, immigrants come in and they bring their whole family and they get all this welfare. That's not really true, but it's also structurally not true. Oftentimes, immigrants that come over are younger. The two biggest pieces of welfare that people get in this country, I think like 2/3 or some like crazy percentage of the federal budget is Medicare and Social Security. I think those are good programs, but when you're coming over as a 25-year-old like Mexican or Indian immigrant, for example, you're not getting Social Security or Medicare, number one, because you're an immigrant and not a citizen, and number two, because you are young, right? But assuming that you're working legally, which oftentimes these people are, you're paying into those systems. And another reason why oftentimes it's hard to find that immigrants are fiscal drains is because they pay a lot of taxes into the system without getting any benefits outside of even Social Security or Medicare. For instance, if an immigrant buys a house or rents, they're paying either directly or transversely property taxes they don't really see any benefits from, either because they don't have children or because their children aren't in like standard levels of education, or they're paying things like sales tax, right? They pay into the system in other ways than just income tax. That's even if they're undocumented, which I don't think is particularly fair. He mentions, again, another sideswipe about how I haven't proved that it's better for everyone. I actually have. He mentioned it in his own speech. Oh, they're only coming over here so that, or what do you call it, hospitals and I guess engineering firms are only hiring immigrant engineers so that they can pay them less. Again, right, I don't think that any American doesn't benefit from having cheaper medical services or cheaper professional services from engineers, or cheaper bills for their electricity, or cheaper bills for their plumbing, or cheaper construction costs for their projects that they might be building on an independent basis. I mean, again, how do regular Americans not benefit of that? Of course, I concede that employers benefit from immigration, but that's not a bad thing. I'm a capitalist, right? I think it's fine for sometimes policies to benefit employers, and insofar as many, many services are made more affordable for lower income people and middle income people, and of course higher income people, that's a good thing that benefits American people, again, in my last minute, I'll just say that trade is a perfect analogy. Trade makes things cheaper. It makes all of our discretionary incomes go up. There are localized losses in that regard. But again, the important question isn't how do we stop the trade policy or the immigration policy from making 99%, 95% of us wealthier. It's how do we empower people who might lose out from those certain policies and take
30
advantage of the
seconds.
gains in that regard. That's the important question.
Okay. Well, I just want to address a couple things. First of all, you flat out lied and said that immigrants aren't eligible for government programs. So I just pulled up a quick list of all of the. There's about 120 that I could find right off the top of Google, but I got a couple. Right off the bat, they're able to get this. So first of all, I live in Illinois, so we have the Illinois Welcoming Center. We have the New Americans Initiative. We have the Immigrant Family Resource Program. We have the WIC and SNAP Outreach. We have the Illinois Immigration Policy Project, and yada, yada, yada. So you just lied. They do have government programs for immigrants and illegal immigrants to get government assistance. That was a flat-out lie, and you've been deceitful. So number two, as an economist, I don't understand why you're not getting the bigger picture. You're pro-cheap labor, but the more radical version of cheap labor is companies take their businesses and go to China and go to where slavery is basically legal. As an economist, you should know that cheap labor is actually bad in the long run for the economy, radical or domestic. But you haven't addressed that at all. Number three, you still never talked about the green card issue where you just flat out lied and said you denied it. They are getting government assistance. They're not beneficial to society. If you take one worker and you put him somewhere and then half of his family comes over and sits around the house and does nothing all day except cook beans and rice, that's not helpful to the American people. I'm sorry to say it. It's not. As radical as that might sound to you, it just doesn't do you any favors. And lastly, I'll go off the point and simply say, if cheap labor is sort of beneficial in your opinion, then how do you advocate for what's taken place when companies go into other countries and they take Ford, they take their cars, they go other places because slavery is legal there. Cheap labor, both domestic and foreign, is harmful in the long run for the United States economy. I'd like you to address some of these issues and stop flat out lying about immigration policies not being there for new immigrants. I mean, it's there. It's right there. Google search. Easy. Stone cold loser. Go ahead.
Well, I don't think I can address it because I think that's the last speech. But what's the process now, Seeker?
That was the final counter rebuttal there. Timekeeper, what do we have left?
We have 6 minutes remaining, roughly 7.
Good, Jib.
If you guys want to split it, if you want to do another rebuttal each, 3 minutes, we can do that. We just got to haul ass.
It's
Yes, no?
if we can do that, or we can add it to the Q&A at the end. I don't care.
I want to know why you lied to the community and said that
Okay,
there's no
okay.
social
Conoboy,
programs.
3 minute rebuttal, then Goldie, 3 minute
Oh,
rebuttal.
just real quick, I just want to answer this question. Why did you lie to the community and say
No,
that there's
I'll answer
government
it
programs for
in my
brand new
rebuttal.
immigrants?
Let him reply. We'll give you the shot
Stop
after. Yes.
the steal. Go ahead.
Stop the steal.
2 minutes,
Yeah,
50
I
seconds,
guess
timekeeper each.
you said 1 minute and 50. What are we doing?
2 minutes, 50 seconds.
Okay, 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah, so I guess to answer this last point, talking about how, oh no, that's actually not true. There's a lot of government services that immigrants are eligible for. Now, to some extent, I don't think I would disagree with this. I hope that I was more precise in saying that a lot of forms of welfare they're not eligible for. I mean, I specifically mentioned Medicare and Social Security. Of course, for instance, if you bring like a young child over, that child, assuming they're old enough to go to school, is going to go to school. Oftentimes, what people will do is they'll say, "Oh, well, that counts as welfare, right? You're walking on public streets, you're going to public schools." You mentioned some state level programs, I guess, in Illinois where you might be able to get some food benefits or something like that. There's obviously some level of social spending that immigrants have access to, but if we're going to count it like that, if we're going to say, "Oh, you're walking on our streets, you're using public transit, you're sending your kids to our schools who weren't born here," because of course if they're born here, those are American citizens, then it's only right to say that if we're counting the fiscal impact, we should count the fiscal impact of those children that actually end up growing up and paying taxes into the system. Of course, the assimilation rate is pretty high, and kids of immigrants end up making some pretty good money. And if you were to actually count the fiscal impact of people who grow up here and end up paying taxes into the system, at the end of the day, the drain goes from maybe about a $3,000 drain on average to actually a positive fiscal impact of $80,000 for every single new immigrant, right? And that is very, very important to point out that even if you included those sort of marginal benefits that these immigrants get, you can say I lied about it, I guess. I feel like I represented it well enough. But the most nuanced answer is that actually, if we include everything that you're talking about, and we include the wages of descendants of immigrants, which is, again, the most fair way to do it, every immigrant tends to have about an $80,000 benefit to public coffers. And so the stereotype of a bunch of lazy Hispanic immigrants coming over with their 30 family members in a small house and cooking beans and rice and living on welfare, it's actually not at all true. It's not empirically bore out. And actually, those Mexican immigrants tend to work very hard, and they tend, their kids especially, end up making pretty good money, end up paying money back into the system to the tune of about $80,000 per immigrant, which I think is fairly good for the fiscal coffers.
30 seconds.
Not the opposite.
Okay. First of all, I think it's very racist that you've had this entire argument focused on Mexicans. I thought that your entire argument was on immigration as a whole, but that's fine because you're proving my point even more. The majority of my sources were against Mexican immigration. Number two, you're lying about the $80,000 revenue that each immigrant brings into the country, because the majority of economists, from the research that I have done, and I can cite some sources, have agreed that there is plenty of workers to fill these jobs, and that's some consensus for the majority of economists that I've done in my research. Okay, they have stated that there is enough jobs to go around and there's enough American workers to fill those jobs. This conception that you're pushing on that we need migrants to fill these jobs is bullshit. It's false. It's fake news. Stop the steal. Stone cold loser. Anyways, the point that I'm trying to make here is that you've simply been deceitful the entire argument. You lied about welfare programs. You lied about the benefit of immigrants into the country on a value standpoint. You lied about the actual percentage. I think you said something like, let me see here. I wrote it down here. You said it's the fundamental point. The fundamental point is, who gives a fuck about the fundamental point when the statistic is right in front of your eyes? Read the statistic. I don't care about your philosophy. I don't care about what your liberal professor told you when you sat there across your computer and looked at him from the screen and tried to be his favorite. That doesn't matter to me. Your philosophy and your fundamental bullshit doesn't matter. Look at the statistic. Look at the point. Look at the damage. Stop lying. Stop the steal, and stop being deceitful.
You concede your time?
I concede my time. I'm not a robot.
Okay. So we're going to move
2
on.
minutes and 45 seconds.
We're going to roll that to the Q&A, and
Okay.
we're going to move on to our next topic.
My
as
mic
carnivore-
lagged, by the way. I said
What's up,
robot.
buddy?
It lagged a little bit. They're saying that I said robot. I said robot. It lagged a little bit. I promise. Go ahead.
No worries, man. So we're going to move on to our next topic, which was taxation. Goldie, Econoboy went first last time, so we're going to have you go first this time.
Well, I know I'm going into this tax situation at a slight disadvantage. He's an
Well,
economist.
wait, we
so
should
I'll
read
go
the
ahead and start
question,
with
right?
that. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's pinned in that group chat. My Discord's slow. If you could check
Let
it.
me see.
No, I've
here.
got it right here. And so it'll be the same topic. You guys will each do a 5-minute opener with 1 to 5 minute rebuttals, and then a 5-minute counter rebuttal each.
Oh, okay.
And
So
then
should the
that'll-
U.S. raise taxes to offer more government services?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
to start off, obviously, he's the economist. Taxes isn't my particular field, although I do know I make more money than him at 19, which is a slight advantage. But my perspective is we need a flat tax. We need to reduce government spending. We can start by not sending billions and billions of dollars to bullshit-ass Ukraine. Who cares about their country? It's not our war, not our problem. We need to stop getting into entanglements that are not our problem, sending money to them. America is at a point in time right now where we're tired of being the hero from everyone else when we have too much villainous snakes in our current Washington swamp. We need to fix our country before we're sending a bunch of billions and billions of dollars elsewhere to help other people fight their battles. We need to reduce government spending. We need a flat tax. And I already know what he's going to go, taxing the rich helps the economy. The rich don't really pay that many taxes because their other two sources of income, passive, etc. When it comes to income tax, from my understanding of my research, they're not really paying that much taxes on their income tax because the majority is capital gains and passive. So that argument doesn't work when it comes to taxing the rich. We need a simple flat tax based on income, and that would solve all of our problems. But the snakes in Washington, D.C., the rhinos in the Republican Party, and the Nancy Pelosi's and the AOC's and the Ilhan Omar, who gives a shit, they're all taking advantage of the same tax laws because it's putting more money in their pockets. We need a flat tax. We need to protect the American working class citizen. We need to stop paying for everybody else's lazy ass like these migrants coming in with their green cards, filling up houses with 10, 20 people. He says it's a stereotype. There's a little bit of truth to every stereotype, unfortunately, to break it to you. And we need to simply advocate for a flat tax, stop putting money in the pockets of Washington by allowing them to dictate shitty tax laws, and stop the steal. It's very simple.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I feel like oh yeah, go on, Jib. Sorry.
Where we at timekeeper, because we're kind of brushing up the edge of time for this topic, right?
Well, we're on taxes, right?
Yeah.
That was Goldie's opener on taxes.
Yeah,
My
that was
opinion.
okay.
I'm quick.
All
I'm
right,
quick.
go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so
No
Econoboy
worries.
now has 3 minutes 18. So he has 3 minutes 18 of Goldie's time, and he has his other 5 minutes.
Take your time,
Yeah, I'll
Econoboy. I'm
I'll
quick in the
use
streets
time.
and in the sheets.
Um,
Go ahead.
That's good to know, I guess. All right, yeah, I guess to talk a little bit about what Goldie said. He mentions I guess he's at a disadvantage. I do want to mention he says he's at a disadvantage because he's not an economist. I'm actually not an economist either. And I do want to point out that it was Goldie who picked the topic, so I didn't pick these these topics. So we can I'm comfortable talking about whatever Goldie wants. But now we've got to talk about taxes. But in any future debates, we can talk about whatever he wants. It seems like he is uncomfortable talking about taxes. We didn't really hear a ton about taxes in his speech. He mentions, he wants to reduce taxes in the form of having a flat tax. He wants to reduce spending. He says we shouldn't be helping Ukrainians and stuff like that. Obviously, I disagree. I think the Ukrainians have a worthy cause, and certainly it's an incredibly small proportion of the budget that we're actually sending there anyway. And certainly, if we include all foreign aid is not a very large percentage of the budget. It's fairly trivial. He mentions something that I guess when he was researching, he felt like this was a great truth that he uncovered. Taxing the rich doesn't work because, well, rich people, a lot of their money doesn't come from income, right? It comes from, or regular income, ordinary income, I should say. It comes from other sources, passive investment vehicles. So if you raise the income tax, well, you're not really taxing the rich because those people don't pay a ton of income tax anyway because they've got all these capital gains and stuff like that. But little does Goldie know in his research, he probably should have found out there's a such thing as a capital gains tax, and there's different dividend tax. I mean, we just implemented a share buyback tax. There's an inheritance tax. People talk about a wealth tax, things like that. I mean, obviously, there's more ways to quote unquote tax the rich than just raising the top marginal rate of tax on income. Certainly, I hope he would agree with that. And so insofar as we want hopefully a holistic policy of taxing the wealthy, or not necessarily taxing the wealthy, but just having an equitable taxing and spending scheme, then of course, the income tax, the payroll tax, the capital gains tax, these things all are within the realm of possibility and the realm of view in terms of trying to tax the wealthy. He mentions also, we don't need this foreign aid. We want to take care of Americans, so we need to cut spending. Oftentimes conservatives don't actually define what they even mean. Again, if we're talking about cutting out the entire foreign aid budget, that's actually not that much anyway. You're not going to save that much money per taxpayer. The things that cost a lot of money are things like Social Security and Medicare. If Goldie believes in cutting those, I'd love to hear him justify that. Those are two of the most effective programs at fighting elderly poverty, and probably the most effective poverty-reducing programs in all of U.S. history. In fact, set a precedent for the world in terms of how effective those policies are. I guess to make the positive case from my point of view, why do I think taxing the wealthy and having these sort of government services are good? Well, number one is that I think that income inequality is a problem. It's not like a problem insofar as I hate rich people and I think they shouldn't be rich or anything like that. It's a problem insofar as it actually causes real material harm to the country. High levels of income inequality, which certainly the U.S. has, and especially increasingly high levels of income inequality. It's certainly very well founded in the criminology literature that high levels of economic inequality causes crime. Nobody likes crime. Hopefully we can agree on that. And so insofar as that is a problem, income inequality is also a problem. So inheritance taxes, higher top marginal income taxes, capital gains taxes can help alleviate that. It is actually very effective at reducing income inequality, taxes on these forms of income. So hopefully we can agree on that kind of descriptive reality as well. When it comes to the types of programs that I would support, I would support a whole swath of different welfare programs because they're effective, right? If we care about alleviating poverty, right? Taxes and transfers, according to the OECD sort of average study found that taxes and transfers, which is, of course, taxes then spending, reduced poverty by 55%. If we look at the full income poverty measure, which takes into account all of the different vehicles for which people can obtain additional in-kind or direct income from welfare programs, even in the United States, which doesn't have a very generous or robust welfare state, even if we take into account just the United States, that since the war on poverty, poverty rates in the U.S. went from 20% pre-World War II, to 2.3% in 2017, a direct result of the types of programs that FDR and Lyndon Johnson, a couple of good Democrats, of course, implemented. And that's not to mention all the different benefits that we found empirically from, giving cash to poor people, different welfare spending mechanisms that people have and are advantaged by and advantaged from. And so, I think that income inequality is a problem. I think that poverty is especially a problem. And it turns out that you can solve two birds with one stone, taxing wealthier people more equitably and then spending towards lower income people who need it. If you care about actually helping the people at home, as Goldie purports, well, these programs are actually very effective at doing that.
Okay. Goldie, your rebuttal there?
So just to start off, you say you hate crime, but you're pro-immigration, so I think there's an issue with that. But to overall kind of combat your point on income equality, number one, welfare and social programs like that benefit so many people that you claim. I like how you use the elderly as an example, but they're a rather large portion of the bigger problem, right? So it's a positive thing, right? It's good to help the elderly, that's fine, but you use the most minimalistic aspect of the damages of welfare and make it your positive. Typical liberal argument, typical red coat argument, typical stone cold loser argument. Now, first of all, let me tell you a story. 2.5 years ago, I had no car, no money in my bank account. I worked at a grocery store bagging groceries. I saved up enough money to buy a computer and to buy my first car. I got on the computer, became an entrepreneur, built myself a consulting agency where I'm pulling $20,000 to $30,000 a month. That is the kind of thinking that Americans need. Not to be told, hey, don't work, get on welfare. Hey, don't work, get on Medicaid. Hey, don't work, do this, do that. Be a stone cold lazy bum. That's the rhetoric that you're pushing. Income equality, give me a fucking break. There's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. You can choose to be a loser, Econoboy, and you can encourage people to be losers and to not strive to be a better version of themselves, to not strive to be ambitious, to not strive to walk that 10 miles to the library if they don't have a computer, to not go and read the books and the knowledge that they need to obtain to be successful in the United States. You can keep spinning into the typical liberal brainwashed argument, stay poor, we'll take care of you. The government's going to help you. The government shows up on your door and says, I need to help. That's a problem and you should be afraid of it. Ronald Reagan said it best. You're pro-government. You love poor people because at the end of the day, you can continue to brainwash them, shit on the American class worker, take these immigrants and steal the jobs. I mean, at the end of the day, you talk in circles, you talk without speaking. Nobody's following your arguments because it's bullshit and you know it. You claim to lie. You're deceptive. Nobody cares. At the end of the day, you're cool with people being poor. You're cool with people being lazy. You're cool with people taking advantage of government programs and not striving to be better versions of themselves. You want the solution? I already told you how we would stop government spending. Stop sending billions and billions of dollars to fucking other countries that we don't care about. Fuck them. Who cares about Ukraine? It's not our war. Those dumbass clowns shouldn't have been messing around with NATO anyways, okay? Stop sending billions of dollars to other countries. Who cares about asylum seekers? It's not our problem. We have too many problems in the United States. We are tired of being the good guys 24/7. You want to use the past as an example? Go right ahead. Getting lost in the past distracts us on working on the present. You need to understand that in your little economist mind because I'm making more money than you and I'm not an economist. That should say something to you. Now, to address another thing that we can do, number one, we need to have some sort of timestamp on welfare. You can only be on welfare for a certain amount of time, and no, you can't renew it. You can only be on this government program for a certain amount of time, and if you don't get your lazy ass a job, bad news, you lost your house. Too bad. And Nancy Pelosi can deal with it over in San Francisco with her lazy ass and her shitty ass government department that does nothing about the homeless people where they're shooting up heroin and fucking each other in the lakes. You're pro-homeless people. You're anti-American worker, you're pro-poor people, you're anti-rich, and your argument sucks. You're a red coat, a stone cold loser, and you have fatherless energy. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, how much time do I have? Sorry, I should ask.
You have 5 minutes.
All right, 5 minutes. Let's do it. Okay, so I guess to respond to some of the substance here, He mentions, oh, income inequality. You're mentioning, it's all minimalistic. You're just talking about old people. I mean, well, there's millions of old people. I'm not sure how minimalistic Social Security is as a program. Certainly, it's a very expensive program, but it's also very effective and very much worth it. So I love Social Security. That leads us into the fact that he actually didn't respond to any of the substance. The fact that we've reduced poverty from 20% to 2.3% if we account for the income associated from government benefits. I guess that's a shoot away. The fact that taxes and transfers across the whole OECD, which includes middle income and higher income countries, it has reduced poverty by 55%. He mentions, I love government. Well, I love it when government gets a lot of people out of poverty. I mean, I don't see what's so wrong with that. I think it's up to Goldie to explain why, an 18 percentage point, basically going from 20% to 2.3% reduction in poverty is a bad thing. I mean, that seems like a pretty good use of money. I'm not sure who it quite benefits to have this sort of permanent underclass in society who are unable to be uplifted. That leads me to his next argument, which was about, I'm against entrepreneurship and whatever. And I used to work at a grocery store, and now I'm this stock trader, I guess. And I make a ton of money. I mean, look, I've never seen your W-2. I'd love to see it if that's true, or I've never seen your W-9, let's say. But let's just, I'm not sure how to confirm how much money you make. Anybody can go on the internet and say they make a ton of money. But moving beyond that, there's nothing wrong with entrepreneurship or being an entrepreneur. Actually, when you do experiments that give people money, that give people a backdrop of safety in terms of cash benefits and welfare, it actually increases the amount of entrepreneurship and innovation, and that's a good thing, right? I mean, obviously, if someone wants to innovate, it's important that they feel supported enough. That way, if the innovation in general or the entrepreneurship that they do doesn't work out, they don't completely lose their ass on that innovation, right? It's good that we have a collective support of people who want to innovate, and that's why when you look at societies that have relatively robust welfare programs, the Nordic countries, Western European countries, stuff like that. It's not as if these countries are completely devoid of innovation. In fact, oftentimes a lot of the great innovations that these people produce come from these countries. And again, I don't think that we'll have a problem with that if in the U.S. we transitioned to a little bit more of a redistributive program that helps lower income people. He mentions, I love homeless people. Well, of course I do. I'm not sure what's not to love about people who are homeless and struggling on the streets. I want to help them as much as possible, and that's all that I care about. What helps homeless people, what helps poor people, apparently for a long time wasn't, people like Ronald Reagan and people saying, just stop being lazy and get a job. Actually, it turned out just helping them directly is what helped them. That's why poverty was reduced significantly because of these programs. That's why poverty reduced by 55% in the OECD because of taxes and transfers. Goldie's method just doesn't work. And if you care about lower income people, as I've demonstrated throughout, he mentions, oftentimes using lower income people as a pawn in the immigration argument. Oh, well, we should care about these lower income people because they lose out as a result of immigration. I agree to some marginal extent, but then he eschews all of the programs that are empirically demonstrated to help lower income people very, very directly. So once again, if you care about those people, you should support the types of policies that I'm actually advocating for, if only for the reason that they're just empirically proven to be very, very effective. The last thing that I'll mention, he again makes this point about foreign aid and whatnot. Again, if we eliminated the entirety of all foreign aid that we give out, that is a very small, trivial amount as a percentage of the federal budget. That's not going to save taxpayers a ton. And actually, when you look at the different sort of geopolitical moves that China's making in terms of expanding their foreign influence, expanding their trade, it's important for us to go out and make these allies with countries like Ukraine, countries in Africa, developing countries in South Asia and Southeast Asia, because if we don't, our enemies will. And certainly I don't want China to have an unimpeded ability to export their authoritarian communist system of government. If you care about fighting communism, the Chinese Communist Party, then certainly you should believe in foreign spending and getting allies on our side. Apparently, Goldie, in my view, has actually taken the pro-communist position in this debate by not actually supporting the types of competitive foreign spending schemes that counteract the Chinese Communist Party. And those are the types of programs that I can get behind as a Democrat. And again, I challenge Goldie to respond to the actual substance, the empirics that show that all these programs do great things in terms of reducing poverty and income inequality.
So first of all, don't ever
Goldie,
call me.
just-
Let me finish.
just-
I just want 2 minutes. Just 2
just
minutes.
before you start
No,
there,
no, no.
Goldie,
Hang on, Goldie.
Go
Go on,
ahead.
Seeger.
so just before you start there, so this will be Goldie's final counter rebuttal, and then it'll finish with the Convoy's final counter rebuttal.
Yes,
To the
5
audience, please put your questions. We're going to move into questions and answers afterwards. Please put your questions into the Goldie versus Convoy text chat there.
Okay. So
And,
first of all,
just at the end, you guys will have an opportunity to let the audience know about anything you want to plug. Okay.
First
Okay.
of all, don't ever call me a communist when you're a stone cold redcoat. There's nothing worse than a redcoat, and you can't compare me to being a communist because I'm a stone cold capitalist. Number two, you haven't actually addressed your own point and why we should raise taxes rather than lower them. You've basically just been defending welfare programs. We have 59 million people on welfare programs, and that number isn't really changing. It was changing under the Trump administration, but now it's going up. And then I find it interesting how you change your argument based upon your position, right? So you care about the lower class, you care about the people suffering under poverty when it comes to welfare, but you don't when it comes to their jobs being stolen by immigrants. See, that's the problem that I have. You're basically a grifter. You just choose the argument that benefits yourself while contradicting yourself multiple different times. You lie about things, and then when I prove the actual statistic and the actual source, you do nothing. You haven't cited a single source this entire argument. Number two, and then you go off on this big tangent on old people matter. We know old people matter, but they're an extremely minimalistic factor in the overall people that are taking advantage of welfare, the people that are coming over here on green cards, and their family members are coming in and getting on government programs, which you lied about and said that they didn't, but they did. And at the end of the day, the solution is this. We need to get people out of this common state of mind that the government is going to take care of us. Worst comes to worst, we'll be on welfare for the next 5 years. Here's my solution to the homeless problem. Let's set up a government-issued P.O. box system so they can go get a job, have an actual address to put on their resume, and boom, problem solved. But you don't think like that because you're an economist, right? Economists don't understand the way that the real world works because they're too busy sitting in their little office, not going outside, being pale-skinned like yourself, not getting any bitches, and sitting there debating about, oh, this is going to save the economy. I think you need to step out into the real world and understand how things do work. My solution would work. You want to solve your homeless problem? Let's create a government-issued P.O. box system so they have addresses to put down on a resume, but you don't think those big brain ideologies like I do. And at the end of the day, you call me a communist to try to divert to the fact that you got your ass kicked in this argument. You're a red coat, nobody cares, get some hose. I concede the rest of my argument.
Okay.
How
Is
about
that-
you have 3 minutes plus on top
3
of your 5
minutes.
minutes, so you have 8 minutes.
Okay, I'm not sure I'll use all that, but I'll start the time. All right.
Oh, wait, real quick. And my last
yeah, sure.
question. What
Okay.
color is your Mercedes?
Honestly, I drive a modest pickup truck because I'm a goddamn Southern American. Okay, I like pickup trucks. But all right, let's. I'll start my time.
Don't try to appeal to the rural people here. You've done nothing but just insult them. Try again. Go ahead. I'm done.
Well, like I'll address that in my time, I guess. So to address that remark, look, I actually grew up in the South around rural people. The types of programs that I'm describing help rural people. You ask rural elderly people about Social Security and Medicare, they'll tell you to not touch their Social Security or Medicare because it helps those communities quite a lot. A lot of poor communities very, very much benefit from things like food stamps, things like housing subsidies, stuff like that. Things like a publicly funded school system, things like Medicaid and rural hospital subsidies. So there's many aspects of these policies that rural people that I actually grew up around do support and do like. Of course, those are the types of programs that you would actually cut because you don't understand how to help rural people and lower income people. I've grown up like that. Of course, I've gotten out of that at this point in terms of being poor, but not in terms of living around rural people and understanding their problems. To address the points that you made in the first part of your
Wait, Convoy, what color is your
well-
truck? Or what kind of truck do you have? Is it domestic or
Excuse me a
foreign?
second. Wait, please don't interrupt the speaker. Until
Is it
it's time to
domestic or foreign? Just real quick, can you answer? Is it domestic or foreign?
Please, Goldie.
I'm not sure what the proportion of parts are, but I don't want to say what kind of car I have. I don't want to dox myself in that way. I've got a truck though. let's just
Ford.
say.
What kind of truck is it? It's very simple.
I don't want to say. I don't want to get doxed,
because it'll shoot your argument in the foot.
Go
ahead.
not really, but
Please
we
wait
can
until
move
the
on.
Speaker is finished. Thank you.
Anyway, I'll keep going with my point though. When it comes to he mentioned I didn't provide much of a positive case for taxes on the wealthy in my last speech. Well, I actually did in my first speech. He just didn't address any of those points in his speech. Again, he talked about how we need to stop having foreign aid and stuff like that. He didn't actually address the fact that foreign aid is a very small proportion of the budget, and all the programs that I described are empirically proven to help a ton, but he didn't address the points I made, the positive arguments for raising taxes on the wealthy. I mentioned that it reduces income inequality, and that transitively reduces crime, increases social cohesion, and things like that. Obviously, if you're taking a more less sort of MMT worldview, of course, it increases the amount of money available to the government to spend on certain programs, which of course I support. I like those programs. He says that I'm not consistent in terms of helping or wanting to support lower income people because I support immigration, right? And immigration hurts lower income people. So how is it the case? And number one, I don't concede that immigration holistically hurts lower income people. What I conceded was that to some extent, there's a marginal decrease in wages for people with less than a high school diploma. Of course, that doesn't only include lower income people. People with a high school diploma can actually be higher income. Maybe Goldie thinks very lowly of people with less than a high school diploma, but certainly I don't. Insofar as the people in that group are hurt by immigration, I'm actually the one being consistent in saying that all of these programs that are empirically proven to really, really significantly help lower income people and help people get training and skills and jobs and educations, do those things. And so we should support those programs. We should not make 95% of society poorer because of the 5% that loses out. Again, the question is just how we empower lower income people or people who lose out in a society that's generating wealth broadly. That's actually what Goldie doesn't do. Goldie would tell those people, well, I guess just go get another job or deal with this or shut off the borders and decrease the wealth and discretionary income, not only for higher income people, not only for businesses, but also lower income people. Of course, cheaper groceries is something that even, lower income people, I guess, benefit from. And that's something that trade and immigration policy helps with. And the programs that help those people that lose out are the programs that I actually support and the ones that he's eschewing away. He talks about, I want to give every homeless person a P.O. box so that they have an address to get a job. I actually agree that homeless people need addresses. That one of the countries that has functionally eliminated homelessness is Finland. They have a housing first, holistic wraparound services model for homeless people that gives them addresses, gives them the services they need, whether it be addiction counseling, whether it be jobs counseling, whether it be training. And at the end of the day, it gives them a roof over their head and healthcare that they can utilize. That's actually what helps homeless people get off the streets, get off of their addictive substances, get the mental health counseling that they need, get the training that they need to get back into the workforce. That's what helps homeless people. Again, I do love homeless people. I'm empathetic to homeless people and their plight, and I support the policies that actually empirically help them. What doesn't help is just telling them to get a job. Giving them a P.O. box would be about as valuable as doing nothing at all without those wraparound services, because homelessness is a complicated problem. And the more government services that we provide to homeless people in the forms that I just described, the less homeless people that will be dealing with sort of chronic everyday street homelessness that we see in society. I'm just arguing fundamentally for what works. Goldie's arguing for a fantasy that's never worked.
You were homeless once, though,
One
right?
second,
Did you
Goldie.
use the government
Timekeeper.
programs to help you?
Goldie, one
curious.
second.
So it has now 1:43
This is true, by the way.
of leftover time, and we are now at 9 minutes left over.
I'm just curious if the government. I mean, from my understanding, he was homeless
Goldie?
once. Did the welfare help? him?
we're gonna do 4 minutes each, right? You guys good with that? With the remaining time
Oh, rebuttal? Yeah, sure. That's whatever you want.
for like
We have
third
9
rebuttal.
minutes.
I
We have
think.
9
Are we
minutes
answering
remaining.
questions now, or what are we doing here?
We have 9 minutes. We have 9 minutes of this topic remaining. We can split that into 4-minute rebuttals each, or we can move on to questions.
Either
I
way.
think what's more important is that we address the fact that we need to sort of adapt to the term straight homosexual man. I'm a straight man, but I love the homies. And I think that that's a very relevant contrary to a gay
Mr.
man,
Lee, this is your
a kind of
rebuttal.
boy. And I
It
think
is.
that it's relatively important. No, that is not my rebuttal. I just think that you just tiptoed around my entire argument. My question for you,
Coming
I'll
out
let
of
you
your
answer.
time though, either way.
You were okay. Let it come out of my time. From my
Okay.
understanding, from what people told me, you were homeless once, right? So God bless you for getting out of it. I'm proud of you.
I was
But did you
housing
use the-
insecure. Yeah.
Okay, so did you use government programs to get yourself out of it?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so how many people in your shoes, okay, have followed your footsteps on a statistic standpoint? Not very many, right? Because it doesn't work. It's like a 1 in a
What do you
million
mean?
chance. So
Like, what doesn't work?
congratulations. The majority of people that get on welfare stay on welfare. That was going down in the Trump presidency, but now because of Sleepy Uncle Joe sniffing your sister, it's kind of staying the same right now.
Well, yeah, I agree. If you just kick people off welfare, there'll be less people on welfare, but that doesn't mean you've reduced poverty,
A
right?
time frame, but don't we need a time frame? Like, you should be on welfare. You get this amount of time. If you don't do something about it, that's too bad.
Well, I mean, there's two schools of thought, right? The Nordic countries, which have very generous welfare programs, actually have harsh time cutoffs for their welfare, like you're describing. But in America, we've decided that instead of time cutoffs, we're going to have like work requirements and like active job seeking requirements and
Which
stuff
countries?
like that.
Which
all the
countries are you
Nordic.
comparing to the United States to?
Well, I
Canada?
referenced the. Well,
The,
no,
co-
not
the country
Canada.
where you get arrested for calling
I- I
someone
don't-
they them
Well, I don't know if
or
you
whatever.
know what the Nordic countries are, but I referenced the Nordic countries. That's a group of 5
No,
countries.
I'm asking. I know that, but I'm asking you to name the specific countries. Are you saying all of them?
Yeah, they all have time cutoffs
So,
for their
so let's look at
social
the
assistance.
Let's look at the Nordic economy and compare it to the United States economy. That's not really a fair comparison. That's just a foolish argument.
Well, I'm not comparing their economies. I'm comparing
You
their
just did,
welfare
though.
systems.
Yes, but their welfare systems attribute to their economies because your whole standpoint is that we need to raise taxes to help people on welfare, to help people on government programs. It doesn't work. It doesn't help. It's harmful.
Well, why does it work in all the countries that it's tried, including America?
Because they don't have mass immigration like we do.
No, but even in America, I referenced
No,
that
stop,
even
stop,
in
stop,
America,
stop, stop,
our
stop. It works in those countries.
you're
It works
interrupting
in
me
those
because you know
countries.
you're dead wrong on this. Even in America,
I'm dead wrong.
when
Okay.
you look at the full income poverty, which includes the income, in kind, or direct income benefits for welfare programs, we've reduced poverty from 20% in the pre-war period to 2.3% today. Even in America, that's the case. Poverty is very, very much alleviated because of welfare programs.
So your solution, right, to combat poverty is to charge working class people money to give poor people money so they can't claim to be poor. They're still poor. They didn't earn the fucking money. It's not really their money until they've earned it and got out and get a job. Okay, so that doesn't work because your
Well, I
solution
think
is
working class
let's fix the
people,
poverty problem. Let's fix the poverty problem by taxing the people that actually work and get off their lazy asses, and let's put it in the poor people's pocket who sit around. And then you want to compare Nordic countries. Somebody said in the chat, it's a very good point. They're primarily white because the people that take advantage of the welfare, okay, are minority communities. That's what's hurting
Well,
the economy.
Look,
Single households, for example, in black communities, they're 90% of them are on welfare. That's not
So,
really helpful, and they
again,
stay there too.
well, unless your solvency is to get rid of all the black people, I'm not sure we can do anything about that.
That's not,
other
you know
than
it. Don't try to put a
uplift-
racist argument on
Other
what I
than-
said.
well,
The
I'm trying-
solution
Hang
is,
on,
well,
guys.
let's
Hang on. We're getting a little bit too disjointed here.
Well, you're the one
we're
that referenced-
wait, hang on. We're still technically in Goldie's time. If Goldie, if you want to give a
Oh, I
comment,
didn't realize.
talk on your time. That's okay.
I mean, I
We're
guess we'll
still
just
gonna
kind of
split it.
treat this as on and off. We don't really need to split. I mean, we're just kind of going.
Yeah,
off
it's just
of each
I
other.
thought it
Let's
was just
keep
a
it that way.
rolling time.
So, but
Yeah.
but my position is
We're
that
being
we
free
shouldn't have.
with it. If you want to go
there
full
needs-
roll, okay. You
yeah,
guys got
there
about
needs
Can I
to
say
be-
one thing real quick?
There needs
So
to be.
What
there-
I'm going to do is I'm going to run the clock. We are at 5:40 right now since I was keeping the time while they were talking. So at 5:40, I'm going to give a 2-minute warning at 2 minutes. I'm going to run the clock, open floor.
Okay.
So my
That works.
my position is that I understand the benefits of welfare programs. I mean, there's some benefits. I'm not a radical crazy guy, but the problem is there needs to be a time frame. There needs to be a cutoff. You can only be on welfare for this amount of time, and you can't get back on it for a long time. Probably ever. I don't think you should ever be able to get back on it. I think you should get some leniency. Okay, hey, we'll help you out. Okay, fine. I guess we don't want you on the street shooting up heroin or fucking other homeless chicks in the lakes like San Francisco. But it shouldn't be permanent. But that's what you're advocating for. You're advocating for permanent welfare, permanent government programs that people can be on for the rest of their lives without going out and working. And sure, you'll use the disabled argument. What about the disabled people? That's a different argument. Of course, they should be taken care of. People who have
Oh,
strokes
sure,
can't
yeah.
work anymore.
Elderly
So
people. Yeah.
I think it's very, very, very fair to say there needs to be a cutoff on welfare programs. Would you agree?
Well, I'm just for whatever works, right? So, like I said, the Nordic countries have cuts off. They have time cutoffs for some of their
Yes
welfare
or no?
programs, right?
Economy, it's yes or no.
No, but the answer is not yet. It depends on the program, right? So, for instance, when it comes to like wraparound services for homeless people, unless that homeless person is able to re-enter society productively, then I'm not sure why we would have an arbitrary cutoff for that person, right? Because again, whether they're sort of productive and working, or they're drug addicted and just going to go back on the street and and deal with their addiction in the cold, I'm not sure how either of those scenarios calls for like a strict cutoff from welfare. It doesn't really make sense in terms of that program. And when it comes to, again, you keep avoiding the topic. You mentioned that, okay, you kind of implicitly concede that, well, we might be able to reduce poverty significantly with welfare programs, but you're taxing these upper income people or these people who are working to pay for these welfare programs. But again, I don't think it benefits anyone in society to have a class of people who is generationally poor across time and takes up many aspects of impoverishment in society. I don't think that benefits anyone.
I guess where we would just disagree is I'm a man that represents personal responsibility, personal ambition, and goals. And you're a man that believes that people should allow the government to take care of them without any hard work. I guess my ideology would be that the world owes nobody anything. And if you want things in the world, you have to work hard, you have to be ambitious, you have to do what it takes to be successful. And I think that you're sort of a minimalist. You'll settle for the bare minimum. And I think that that's where we just will not find common ground on, because I am a driven person. I believe in total drive, total success, work until you achieve what it is that you're desiring. But you're not that, you don't share those similar traits as I do. So I understand why you take the position that you do in your argument. But I think life experience, perhaps, which is interesting because I guess we have similar life experiences. You were extremely poor. I grew up in a relatively poor family. I just guess we just went different pathways. I decided to work my ass off, and you decided to settle with the government. I guess that's where we're just going to have to be different. So,
Well, look, I
that's
mean,
fine.
if anyone knows about me, they know indeed that I'm not a welfare queen or anything like that, or reliant on government programs at this point. All that I'm saying is that those programs can significantly help people actually uplift themselves out of poverty, right? You mentioned talking about wanting to persevere and be entrepreneurial. I don't think anybody who advocates for welfare programs thinks that people should just stop working and, be permanently supported by the government. But the reality is that's not even possible. We can't afford to just permanently put everyone on welfare programs. The good thing is that most people don't actually want to live on welfare, because even in the most generous societies in terms of welfare, living on welfare is not a particularly comfortable existence, right? Because of affordability problems and
We
because
have
of
currently
productivity
2 minutes
problems,
remaining.
right? Yeah, and because of productivity problems. And so, again, it's a decent enough slide swipe. I mean, I'm sure maybe the audience might be dumb enough to fall for that, but the reality is, if I was talking to an individual who is struggling with this, I wouldn't be telling them to rely on the government to take care of you perpetually. I would tell them very similarly to do things that I did, get an education, study, work hard, get a good job, network really hard. That's what I did, and that's ultimately what helped me get out of poverty, including some government benefits, which I think helped me and help a lot of people. Again, we keep ignoring the empirics that poverty goes down because of these programs. People are uplifted because of these programs. Homelessness is alleviated because of these programs at a fraction of the cost of actually not taking care of these people in many circumstances. People reference the cost of, homeless people taking advantage of, the emergency room, getting treatment and food from prisons and stuff like that. That's actually more expensive. So if we care about being fiscally prudent, if we care about having a moral society that takes care of our downtrodden, if we care about, frankly, just doing what works, then we care about the types of programs that I've been advocating for throughout this conversation.
I guess my last just quick sentence will be, I think I've already rebutted the majority of your stuff, but I'm just not someone that can stand by and tell American workers that they have to pay for other people's mistakes. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
33 seconds remaining.
Yeah, well, we're going to call that there and roll into the questions and answer section. Before I even start asking, we're done with the rebuttals and the counter rebuttals. Can you guys just take 30 seconds each and put a plug out there if you want to? Is there anything you need to plug?
Yeah, sure. If anyone in this chat is interested, you can go to twitch.tv/Econoboy, my Econoboy YouTube channel, and come and harass me in the comments. But to be fair, though, I'm always open to listening to conservative points of view, and you're always welcome in my community.
The only thing that I can plug is a piece of advice. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you need a handout from anybody else. Don't ever let anybody tell you that your ambition is not good enough to be successful. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't work hard enough where you would not need a handout. You are capable of being a tremendously more successful version of yourself, even if you don't know it yet. There's no such thing as unrealistic goals, just unrealistic timeframes.
Okay. We're going to roll into some of the questions we've got. We'll do 3 minutes each. I'll just some of the questions are directed and some of them aren't. So just to keep it fair and to keep kind of a dialogue going, we'll just do 3 minutes each. I'm going to be kind of hard and strict with the 3 minutes because I want to get through more questions, kind of thing.
I'll take like 1 minute. I'm quick. Remember, quick in the
I don't think I'll
streets
take 3 minutes to answer questions either.
That's great. Let's roll into the questions. You want to start with the first one on that list, Seeker?
From Kay there?
Timer start.
Okay, so Kay has the question. Well, hang on, that's a bit specific.
You struggling, Seeker?
Yeah, I got to pick a question out here.
The chat's just moving really quick.
It's okay.
Where are the questions?
Okay, so question for Goldie, but both of you guys can kind of chime in here. This is from our user Grunt. Do you oppose all immigration or just low education immigrants? According to the Cato Institute, Hunter and Guthier, Luis, I can't pronounce that last name, I'm sorry, estimated that is a 2010 study, estimated that a 1% increase in immigrant college graduates as a share of the population increases the number of patents per capita 19 to 18%. Do you not think this is a benefit for the American people?
My answer to that, I had a really good discussion with somebody in the voice chat prior on this exact topic. That study is politically motivated to appeal to leftism because if you understand the way patents work, it's a ongoing competition. You take a group of immigrants that actually get the patent passed. There was probably 4 other groups of Americans that were born in the country that were pushing for the same thing. They're not inventing these patents. They're just getting it before anybody else. So I think right now in 2022, we need to put a hold on immigration. We need to take care of the problems that we have in our country. We need to stop sending billions of dollars to other countries to fight their wars, which we have no part in. And we need to start putting more money in American workers' pockets. We need to reduce taxes. We need to combat inflation. And we need to start being a stone cold patriot country because we aren't at this point. You have blue-haired feminists running around saying kill all men, yada, yada, yada. We need to start going back to where it matters, and that is taking care of Americans.
Yeah, I guess.
And
my
by the
answer
way,
to
that guy's a fucking globalist, and if I saw him IRL, I'd roundhouse kick him in his head. Not you, the guy. who wrote that article.
In Minecraft.
The guy that wrote that article.
In
Okay.
Minecraft.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I guess my answer to that question would be, yeah, I don't. I mean, obviously, Goldie's just invented a reason to, I guess, discredit the innovations that are associated with immigrant laborers. Oh, they're not. None of those innovations are actually from them, and they're just they're just taking credit for things that I guess natives would already invent. I think that's obviously just. I mean, frankly, that's just made up and not really well founded. He mentions that Cato's appealing to leftists. I mean, Cato is a pretty well-known right-wing libertarian think tank, so I don't know if they really care about appealing to leftists that much. And again, that echoes some of the sentiment that I've found researching for this topic, which was just that, yeah, I mean, immigrants come here. It's not like a random sampling of people from other countries, right? Immigrants come here because they are entrepreneurial. They have the motivation to literally go across the entire world and work and be successful. And yeah, they contribute significantly to the scientific research that everyone benefits from in the country.
Well, I mean, again, rhinos exist. I'm not sure if you understand that, and there's no debate on the topic that patenting is an ongoing competition with multiple different groups of people. There's always multiple groups of people pushing to get the patent their way. Sometimes it's more beneficial for Americans to get it rather than migrants, but the reason that the migrants tend to get it more is because it makes a political statement. That's all that it is. It's a patent war.
Okay, sure. Let's go with that.
Okay. Next question.
Wait.
By the way, are you British at all, kind of boy? Do you have any British roots?
I think part of my family was originally from England, but I'm mostly German.
Surprised. I'm not surprised, you stone cold redcoat. I'm not surprised. What can I say?
Most Americans originally were from England, right?
Well,
Okay, gentlemen, we'll move on to the next question.
Let's just move on. Yeah.
guess what though? Guess what
next
though? You don't
question-
hear me saying it's Tuesday, ain't it?
Goldie,
Go ahead.
we'll move on to the next question. Thank you.
Seeker, God King of questions.
Our next question is from Patriot Seagull, and we'll have a Conaboy start it this time because Goldie led the last one. What policy change would you like to see actually change our bloated tax system? And that's from Patriot Seagull.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I got a friend named Micah who advocates for basically collapsing tax advantages into a single tax credit. So like, instead of having this really convoluted system of like, do I do the standard deduction or itemized deduction, all these million different deductions, like collapsing those into just a single, hey, we're going to give you $200 a month back. And instead of having to do all that tax mumbo jumbo at the end of the year, we're just going to send you a bill and it'll be easy enough. To me, that might make some sense. And also, I think that just having like a much more simplified welfare system collapsed into basically fully refundable tax credits over the year instead of having all these disparate forms of welfare programs would probably be a lot simpler, and it would also make taxes a lot simpler for people who use welfare or people who don't use welfare.
Okay. You want to
Okay.
repeat the question for me, would you, real
I'm
quick?
going to repeat the question to you there. So, what policy change would you like to see to actually change our bloated tax system?
I think I've kind of stated it in my argument. I would like to see a flat tax system based on income that includes all sources of income. I think we should abolish tax rebates or refunds. I think that you shouldn't get money back when you pay your taxes, and I think that that's sort of suffers to the economy as well. People should pay in, and they should do their fair share. And hopefully, with government spending being reduced, Nancy Pelosi's goofy ass isn't flying across over to Costa Rica or whatever she's doing. We're not paying for that. I don't think we should pay for Joe Biden's 50 vacations he's taken this presidency. I don't think that we should be paying for government officials to do some of the things that they are, and I don't think that we should be paying for other countries to fight their wars. I think that if we did that, we combated government spending, we had a flat tax, and we stopped giving people tax refunds, taxes wouldn't even be as high, and there wouldn't be so much complaints. People would be making more money and putting more money in their pockets.
Okay. The next question, it'll be for both of you guys.
Okay.
We would love to hear both Goldie and Econoboy's takes on DeSantis sending immigrants to liberal areas, good or bad. What do you guys think? We'll have Goldie go first.
Well,
Okay.
they're the ones that claim to be the sanctuary cities for these illegal migrants, so why don't they do what they advocate for and be the angelic group of people that they are and take them? But at the end of the day, they don't want them. They just want to oppress it onto other people and claim to be the heroes that they try to appear to be. See, the Democrats are the snakes. They are the wolves in sheep's clothing. They want to appeal to be the good guys, but at the end of the day, they're no better, no worse than anybody else in Washington, D.C. at the moment. They're all in it for themselves. That's why they won't actually change the tax laws, because they're putting more money in their pockets all of the time, but they want to criticize the Republicans for doing the exact same thing that they're doing. There's a good old saying, the Democrats will never, ever, ever tell you how much money they're worth, but the Republicans will, because usually the Republicans go into office with a lot of money, and the Democrats go into office with no money like AOC and come out a multimillionaire.
Okay, so same question for Econoboy. What's your take on DeSantis sending immigrants to liberal areas?
Yeah, I mean, this to me seems somewhat similar to city governments that will bus homeless people just out of the, like, they'll give homeless people like one-way tickets just out of their city across the country. It seems like a very abusive practice when they do it with homeless people, and I think it of course has the potential, and well, of course it is probably a very abusive practice when they do it to immigrants. I wish I could live in a state where we were more accepting of immigrants, because again, immigrants, I mean, Texas is a state that has been made incredibly much more powerful because of all the immigrants in our society. I mean, if we didn't have all the immigrants that we have in Texas, we would completely hollow out entire towns. Our industrial base would collapse, and unfortunately we have a governor that doesn't recognize that, and so it's I think it's quite a bad practice, probably a bad precedent. And whether you're trafficking homeless people out of your city or you're trafficking immigrants out to other states, it should probably just not be allowed. It seems like a very it seems like a practice that's very, very rife for potential abuse.
Okay. So our next question comes from the Devil of Bohemia. My question for Econoboy regarding taxes: what are your thoughts on a land value tax? I have no particular position on this. I'm just curious about his position. So that's Econoboy leading, and then we'll have Goldie going after.
Yeah, land value tax is actually great, whether you're a conservative, libertarian, even a socialist. I mean, there's many people for many different reasons who can get behind a land value tax. If you the classic saying that Georges will say is, if you want less of something, you should tax it. Right now, we tax property, the value of property. And the problem with that is that it actually disincentivizes people from developing. If you want more affordable housing, if you want more affordable building, if you want more affordable renting in general, we shouldn't tax people when they develop, right, on top of their land. We should just tax the land itself. This would also actually lead to probably substantial tax cuts for people in rural communities, people in lower income communities, because again, instead of being taxed on the property on top, like say that you own a big farm or say that you own a wildlife sanctuary or something like that, we would just tax you on the value of the land. It's a very equitable, relatively progressive way of taxing, and it's a way of taxing that actually incentivizes people to build, because if you have a piece of land, your land value is probably going to stay structurally pretty similar over time, and you can build like accessory dwelling units, you can build different apartment complexes if you have a big piece of land, and that revenue from that piece of development can go towards paying for your land value tax in a way that's more smoothed out over time, and again encourages development. Wherever land value tax has been tried, the last thing I'll say is that it's done exactly what I said it does, which is that it lowers property tax burdens for people who really, really need it, and it encourages building and makes housing more affordable.
I would actually. This is probably the only thing I'll agree with you on. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I would agree with it. It's fine. Property tax. Okay, sure.
We'll move on to a question by Dancing Default. What is a Conoboy? Oh, Conoboy's going to lead this one. Sorry, I kind of mixed up the order there. What does a Conoboy think about illegal immigrants and drug trafficking?
I mean, I've got all the empathy in the world for, people who come into this country and don't have documentation. I think that we should just have a path to document those people and get them in the system as quickly as possible. With regards to drug trafficking, I'm not aware of anyone who's pro drug trafficking. So, I would say we should do everything we can to combat, drug trafficking. So, I mean, that's all I can say, really.
Okay, Goldie?
You guys have already heard my stances on illegal immigrants. They should not be in this country. And that's pretty simple. And obviously, you know that I hate drug traffickers, and they're a stinky pollution to our country. Drug traffickers. Let's not try to call me a racist. By the way, really quick, this K in the chat keeps talking on and on and on about how bad I am, but he or she has an anime profile picture. That's a major L.
Okay.
If you have an anime profile picture, change your profile picture.
Let's not attack the audience. Let's just keep it on the stage.
No, I'm not. I'm attacking one anime soy boy. And oh, wait, I have a question real quick for Conoboy. What kind of cereal do you put in your soy milk?
I don't eat cereal, personally.
You drink soy milk though, right?
I don't drink milk at all, no.
Well, I wouldn't consider soy milk.
Okay,
but...
so we're gonna move on to our next question. I have a question for Goldie. Agree with you wholeheartedly, but is it needed? I guess this rolls right into it. Is it needed to name call against a Conoboy? I agree with you, but calling him a loser and saying he has no bitches is kind of immature and counterproductive to the debate.
Oh my God.
This is a very good question, and I get asked this quite a bit. I think attacking on the way someone presents themselves says a lot about their argument. The way that somebody presents themselves, the way that they live their life, they tend to correlate with their shitty arguments. For example, you look at these fat, obese blue whales that cry about kill all men. Nobody wants to fuck them. You look at these people that go to the abortion rallies. They're not getting a fucking abortion. Who wants to have sex with them? Nobody. So the way that somebody presents themselves says a lot about their argument, and it correlates. So yes, I insult my opponents because it's relevant to the contrary.
All that I'll say is I've actually seen a picture of Goldie, and I'm not sure that you have a lot of room to stand on.
I just posted my picture.
Look, I congratulate you for being comfortable doing that. All I'm saying is that
I'm better looking than you, and I know that I've had more encounters with women than you. I mean, you're married to an ugly wife. That's just the common knowledge.
Well, sure. I guess one day we'll be able to compare wives. But I'm not
sure
that
the audience what kind of truck you drive.
Next question.
You won't even tell the audience what kind of truck you drive because it's domestic.
Yeah. Let's move beyond the wife
We'll move on to the next question. The next question's for a Conoboy.
Okay, sure.
How familiar are you with post-Keynesian economics? And if you are familiar, how does that school of thought play into your positions?
Yeah, people have reached out to me, and it seems like I would be considered a post-Keynesian. I mean, from what I understand, post-Keynesians just believe that the government plays a role in stimulating the economy, not only in downturns, but also sort of perpetually, that governments can play an important role in filling sort of capacity gaps in the economy, which, of course, I agree with, right? I mean, right now, actually, we don't have to look at right now, like even, under Donald Trump, for instance, right? Or under Obama during the recovery, right? We had a recovering, pretty decent economy, but we still had a lot of different problems. Like we could have built a lot more affordable housing during those times. That's a capacity gap that the government could have solved, even in a time when we weren't directly in recession. So, I mean, it appears to me that insofar as you believe in those types of policies, then you'll tend to be considered a post-Keynesian, which people have reached out and said that I am. I mean, that's about as familiar as I am with the different economic schools of thought, though.
Okay, Goldie, any answer?
I'm pretty unfamiliar with the issue. I just looked it up, but I don't have too much to comment. I'm not too sure what kind of field that is. It's not an issue to me.
Okay, I got a question from Murphy. Feel free to answer this. It's for both of you. How much money do you make?
I make millions a year, so.
I don't think so. You drive a pretty shitty truck. You won't tell us what kind.
Hey, so does Warren Buffett. He drives his pickup truck.
Well, Warren Buffett's one of a kind. For those of you that don't know, I run a gambling consulting agency. I tell people what to place their bets on, and they win, and I bet with them. And we make hundreds and thousands of dollars a year doing so. We use a mathematical coordinated system to have an edge on all picks, and we win in the long term. That is what I've started. It is called Stopwatch Sports Consulting, but I will not advertise it because I'm not looking to advertise anything other than American ambition.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
So we're coming up at the end here of the pre-agreed upon 90 minutes. Any statements y'all want to add? We have like 1 to 2 minutes each. I'm kind of out of order here. I guess Goldie talked last, so Kana Boy, then Goldie. If y'all
Kinda
want
boy
to do it
talk.
that way.
I'll end last. I don't have too much to say. Let him go off on his
Alright.
robotic tangent. Go ahead.
All right,
All right.
1 minute.
Great. Closing statements, Kano.
Yeah, sure. I mean, everyone, if you want to be propagandized to my social democratic nonsense, go to Econoboy on YouTube. Overall, I think that in terms of grounding my stance on economics and politics, I just try to look at what works and do what works. Obviously, there's some pure moral positions, right? Gay rights and stuff like that, where it's a much more philosophical debate. When it comes to economic issues, I just try to look at what works and what doesn't. What works is a pretty open immigration system. What works is a pretty open trade system. What works is, taxes and redistribution schemes that help lower income people uplift themselves out of poverty. That's what I try to do. I follow the empirics. If anyone wants any reference to empirics that I've mentioned here, just feel free to message me and I'll send them to you. You can read the studies yourself. And so that's what I try to do. And if you care about that, I guess then follow me and maybe learn something and go from there.
Okay, well, I guess my closing statement will simply be, I talked about the issues with immigration, how it only benefits employers, which I proved my point because he never actually debated that. He just said that that's a good thing, which I would disagree with. We argued about welfare and social programs. I advocated for there should be a timestamp. You should not be able to be on welfare for a long period of time, and I think that it's already an issue when you have working class Americans paying for other people's mistakes. That's what I believe that the taxes taken out and put into the welfare programs are. Americans paying for other people's mistakes. I believe in government reduction spending. I think we shouldn't be sending billions to other countries. We shouldn't be paying for vacations. We shouldn't be paying for half of the stuff that Americans are paying. We shouldn't be paying for bullshit, phony impeachment, political witch hunt trials. We shouldn't be paying for raids of Roger Stone's house in Mar-a-Lago. We shouldn't be paying for any of that. We shouldn't be paying for political vendettas. We shouldn't be paying for any of that. If anything, we should pay on election integrity. So I guess that's what I'll leave it off.
That's
Okay.
time.
I want to thank our two speakers. It was kind of fun to do. We haven't done one of these in a while.
Yeah, you're
Jimmy,
welcome. It was fun for me as well. Thanks, Goldie, for coming along. It was fun talking.
Yeah, I hope that you reevaluate some of your ideologies because I think it would put more money in your pocket. I don't think you should lie about making millions of dollars a year, but that's okay.
You never know. He could be this ultra famous YouTube man.
I bet that soy, whatever you're buying, that organic soy, I bet that shit tastes fuego.
Okay. All right, folks. Thank you for coming.